Good afternoon, everyone. Sarah Barker with the Connect Our Elders Empowering Aging podcast. I'm very excited to have with me today Heidi Boehl. She is the Community Outreach Director, Elder Care Advisor for Angel Senior Care based in Washington State. Heidi, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
I'm especially happy to have Heidi with me because Heidi and I have been working together one-on-one every single week for several months now. And so I know that her heart and her passion for helping the elder community is on point. So very excited for all of you to get to know her at the level that I've been getting to know her. So Heidi, let's start with, who are you? What is your background?
So I came into elder services about 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and it started out as a marketer for an elder law firm, which became the platform for me jumping off. So I worked in elder law for about 4.5, almost 5 years. And then I got recruited to work as a sales director for a community. So I was in senior living and senior living community, which put me in touch with different kinds of connections that I had never had. And then I was recruited away from that into home care, the home care field. So my company is kind of special in the way that we don't just provide home care. We have a bigger overall broad view on it, and we do home care and placement services. Mm-hmm. So we're really conscious about not running that person out of resources and leaving them with no choices when the chance of them needing more care later on is pretty high.
Exactly. Would you explain for our audience, what is non-medical home care, and then what is senior living placement?
So non-medical home care is when you need anything from companionship all the ways up to personal care, things that don't need nursing or physical therapist or, any type of clinical setting. So we can come in and do shower aids, standby assist for transfers, meal prep, light housekeeping, and we do a lot of bathing assistance, and then pure companionship. Mm-hmm. And what was the second part of your question?
And then what exactly is placement, right? Because it is important for people in the community, right, that have aging loved ones, or for their own edification when they're looking at their later years, to understand what are these two options, right? And I like what you had to say, right? Somebody can start with home care, but because Angel Senior Care has both, right, somebody can be on home care, but then maybe, right, as hours increase, it's not going to be sustainable. So they have to look at a placement option. So home care, right, is in somebody's residential home. But I do want to clarify for the audience that home is where the person is. So you guys can provide the caregiving services within assisted living, independent living, memory care, right? So what is the placement piece? Like, if somebody is looking at placement, what does that mean?
So when we take that overall big bird's eye view of things, what we're looking at is, does this person have the resources to move into the type of care that they need? So if the person only needs a few hours of care a day, generally that's a much cheaper option. Keeping it home, having somebody who's coming in and checking on them daily, prepping their meals, helping them with the showers, that's a great option. Most people always want to age in place at home, and we want to help facilitate that. That's our primary goal. But when the type of care they need overrides, like if they go from an 8-hour day to a 16 or a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, because they need continual care, we need to always evaluate that on a financial basis and make the best conscious effort to do what's right for that senior at that time. Mm-hmm. We can do 24/7 care. Whoops, I don't know what just happened. We can do 24/7 care, and we're always willing to supplement and do that, especially when families are away. And we do it a lot in hospice situations. Mm-hmm. We'll do a lot of that end of life 24/7 care, so the family isn't burdened with care. They're just there holding hands. Mm-hmm. And we have 24/7 clients who are not worried about the financial risk. But placement is when we are looking at a financial plan, how to get them to a community that's going to take care of them 24/7 with or without a resource. So a lot of times in the state of Washington, we have a lot of great communities that will take somebody with a private pay portion for a year or 2 years or 3 years of private pay, and then they'll convert to state pay and they'll continue to care for them through end of life.
Is this a Washington State specific program dynamic, or is that because it wasn't until you shared with me that Washington does that I realized?
I don't think it's Washington State specific. I think every state has a portion of what they call long-term care, that when someone has become completely broke or indigent, they're going to need care regardless. And so there are programs out there. I think you kind of have to search and find what works for you. Washington is very good to our seniors, and we're fortunate to have communities that have engaged in taking state pay for their residents. I don't know specifically how other states do it, but usually it's under your Medicaid program.
Okay.
So for us, it's when a single person has less than $2,000 in their savings or checking in liquid asset, and then their care exceeds that. And oftentimes, if you're in assisted living, your care and your room and board is going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $9,000 a month. So the state will take your Social Security as your portion of prepay, and then they give you some money back for expenditures, but they pay all the rest of your care costs in your room and board.
Right. So we're going to get a bit more into your background, and I'll tie this in, but I want to share with the audience, why are you doing this work? Specifically the job that you do for Angel Senior Care. What is your why, Heidi?
What is my why? When I first got involved in this industry, it was just an opportunity. It truly was a job opportunity. Somebody said, "Hey, I have this thing and I think you'd be good at it." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like fun, and it pays well."
How a lot of us ended up. Yep.
And I was like, "Whoa, this is," and then I got into the networking and I was very excited about that. It was kind of a natural fit for me. But as I started learning about everybody else's jobs and their positions and dealing more and more with seniors, it became increasingly aware to me that they were the most vulnerable populace that we had. We can stick a child on a poster and all of our hearts bleed, or little puppies being beaten, and we all are sad, but we don't notice seniors. They're just kind of invisible to us. And they're super vulnerable because generally they're adults with resources. They're out there in our communities. And what I've noted about seniors is the more care they need, the less we see them. So as they're aging in place and they are needing help, they've isolated deeper and deeper. And that isolation causes other issues, It's really hard. I just saw a study last night that said isolation and loneliness can shave up to 15 years off someone's life. Like, the decline is huge. And so for me, it was realizing that there's all these really lovely people behind doors or shut in, and I had access to them with this type of work. And just been glorious. I mean, honestly, super glorious to help them along the way, whether it's give them a companion and the care they need in their homes, whether it's helping them move to a community where their social needs are being met, as well as their care needs. I love what I do, and I love the industry wherein I do it, because people in this industry are truly as nice as any people you will ever meet in your whole life. I love it so much. I love the people I work with.
You need to have a heart to be in this industry, right? So let's talk specifically about your process, right? So there's a lot of caregiving agencies, and there's a lot of people that do the specific role that you do. But could you walk the audience through, how does this process work? Like, they've identified that they should have a home care consultation, right? There's needs for activities of daily living. Families are geographically separated, right? Yeah. What happens from the moment they reach out to you moving forward?
So, anyone who's doing sales knows there's a word called discovery, right? And so as we're doing discovery, we just need to be conscious that we're asking for permission to gather that information. That's my favorite way to gather information. Is first, I know this is very invasive. I need to ask for permission to get this information from you, whether it's information about continence, whether it's information about finances, whether it's information about, have you been told you have memory issues? You know, I'm consciously aware that these are really vulnerable topics.
And family dynamics, right?
And family dynamics. So asking for permission for all of this information also is a responsibility to hold that information and not misuse it, right? Like, you have to know that you are consciously taking in information that you should not ever misuse. So when I am on with a new client, like I just got off the phone 2 minutes before this, a daughter was calling because her and her sisters know her mom needs more care. She's already got a placement plan put into place because she's living in an independent living that has continuum of care. But the mom has memory issues, and she's ornery and doesn't want to be told by her children what she needs to do. And she's already getting the mother's getting what she wants. Her 3 daughters have to travel an hour and a half to her once a week. Each one comes once a week. And then she has home care 2 days a week from another company. And the mom's dug her heels in because her children are pressing. And there's lots of resource there. So as I listened to the story today, my first letter went out for referral to a care manager to go do a private assessment with the senior and with the family. And every phone call we take doesn't necessarily make for hours for my company, but in the end it does. So I have a long-term picture, a long-term view of even what I do. It's not about selling this person home care today. It is about getting them the services they need. And I think when we come from that perspective and we're always doing the right thing, that business just comes in. And I was actually referred that client through another placement agency. So
I love what you're describing, because it really is describing the empowering aging philosophy, which is we're leading with empathetic listening, education, navigation. Right now, of course, right, it's going to benefit your company if they need your caregiving services or if they need the placement services. But what people in our industry often forget is that it still has a benefit to your agency, even if they don't end up using your services. But if you identify that there's a different resource for them, and then you at least close the loop on that and get them connected to the resource that they need.
Well, and remember, I think one of the biggest things that I learned from Sarah at one of her trainings was that when we do a referral, it's currency. So, you know, when I referred that over to a care manager, I have 2 options here. I referred to that care manager in hopes that this client's already got a continuum of care. She already has home care set up. The next client that this care manager comes across that needs home care, that she goes, hey, I want to think back to this company that sent
well, and because you're actively collaborating, right?
We're actively doing this. And then the second part is I receive that referral from another placement agency. I will reach out today to that placement agency, have lunch, let them know what I did, because they understood there was already a continuum of care. They could have handled that currency
Mhm.
and dealt with the care manager, but they didn't. And so I want to let them know, help educate them as well. Like, remember, when we come across this, we can always refer here. Have you met that care manager?
You're operating as an advisor, and that's what I want our audience to understand, is that when they're choosing a caregiving agency to reach out to, or maybe they're calling multiple agencies, but what they need to be looking for when they make contact with an agency is somebody who is taking your approach, right? Which is on an advisory level, right? Consultative. It's not good enough to just say, thank you for calling. My name is Heidi. What's going on? How many hours and days per week do you need, right? That is not the right method, right? The right method is to truly understand, ask those questions with permission that you said, and identify all of the resources that are needed.
Yeah. And sometimes when I'm talking to somebody and the family's frantic, they've waited too long, maybe mom's on hospice now, or maybe she's just huge amounts of care, and I find out, oh, she should be on hospice, is giving them more care than they need at the beginning, throwing it out there so that we can get a new baseline, or so that we can give the family time to relax in order to find out what their commitment can also be is to the care, so that we can supplement and not take over. I think it's just important that we're always asking the right questions and getting a feel for what is needed at that precise moment, and then projecting a little bit about what we can do to help down the road.
Right. It's not about just now, but it's like, okay, let's look into the future, right? So that way we want people to be proactive and know what to expect. So, right, you get the referral. We've talked about when you're asking the right questions. It's what we call intake. I like to call it discovery process. So I like that you do too. Now, the intake, the discovery is finished over the phone. What happens next?
Well, if you're good at your job and it's really about home care and home care hours, you've scheduled the assessment right off the bat. You want to get in there, bring your personality, bring who you are, and find out if it's a good fit. Things that we're looking for is a fit. Do I have a caregiver in that general vicinity, or can I hire for one within the next, 72 hours? Do I have a caregiver who can do that level of care? Who's qualified for that level of care? If not, can we have a caregiver trained within the next 72 hours to be at that level of care? I'm super fortunate to work with a company, Angel Senior Care, who's got a very process forward idea of how to do that. We have 2 lead caregivers that work in our office that are skilled to our highest level. They generally go in at the very beginning and do that care for the first 72 hours, and then they'll rewrite and rework some of that care plan and assessment.
I love that, because you're getting like the real-time experience, because it's one thing to just do the living room assessment, ask the questions, do a home safety inspection, right?
Yeah.
Compared to actually the care being provided and seeing the nuances of what the care plan really needs to be to support, quality of life and safety and all of that. I like that.
And then when they bring on that more permanent caregiver, they're also working through all the little things, and they've already really made that initial connection where they go, oh, she likes to have yogurt with strawberries every morning, or whatever it is. It's rewriting that and customizing that now even further into the client experience. So we've been super lucky and really progress forward thinking about how we want to provide the very best care that we can. It is not uncommon. I don't know how many home care agencies are out there, but it is not uncommon for the owner of our company, who's also a CNA, to go out and perform that first set of care. Either she's probably in the field as much as our lead caregivers. She's fabulous.
Let's give them a plug here. So Vaughn and Donna, right?
Yep, Vaughn and Donna Young. They are they've given me the luxury to do the right thing. And I can't, express how much that means, because we're not a corporation, we're not a franchise, and yet we're probably in the top 3 sized home care companies here in Spokane.
So you have the discretion, right? You guys have a very trusting environment where, each of you and your counterpart, Jess, right? She's more like executing. Yes, exactly. And you're doing more of the home care, but you guys have that discretion to make sure, and not the pressure, right? To guide families in a way that may not be appropriate for them, right? Because it's not about just the bottom dollar. It's about, we do the right thing, knowing that it will lead to helping more people, which leads to more revenue, of course.
I think that my mother said to me many years ago, if we all take care of the business will take care of you. And I've learned to live by those words. We take care of the business at hand, and then the business will create its own way to take care of you. Absolutely. And I found that to be true over and over, no matter which industry I've been in.
So back to this process, right? Phone call, intake, discovery, schedule the assessment consultation. It depends on the agency, what they call it. But then when you're in the home and this in-person, we often call it a living room assessment, right? This consultation assessment is happening. What is that like for families? What can they expect for it to be like?
Well, generally, I would say that for families, they want to do their due diligence too and interview 1 or 2 different companies. So I generally like to be the last company or the first company, depending. It depends on how they came in referral wise too. If it was a blind search for a referral, then they're going to interview 2 or 3 companies. If it was a direct referral, generally, they're going to sign with you. So I try to get a lot of the preliminary stuff, height, weight, your doctor, your hospital, ADLs, do you got cats? Do you have, all that stuff off the board. And so that when I go in, part of my physical assessment is to ask them to give me a tour of their home. Where do you sleep? Where's your bathroom? What do you have? Then I can really check out their gait, how they're moving, how was it for them to get in and out of their chair? How was it for them to walk down that hallway? And then I ask a lot more of the engagement questions. What do you like to do? What did you do when you were younger? The engagement questions. And then I see if they're still kind of tracking with me. So the mental assessments during those personal questions. And you always have to be aware that long-term memory is more intact than short-term memory. So asking, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And when they say, oh, I have breakfast. Well, what did you have? See if they're connecting to that piece. What's your general routine every day? What time do you get up? What do you have for breakfast? And a lot of times this is where you'll get other clues in the room too, as the children start rolling their eyes or, that kind of thing. Where you think, I don't think so. No, we didn't do that. When's the last time you saw your doctor? What did your doctor say? Oh, because they're very good at giving you the right answer. But generally, if you just peel back one more layer, you'll find out mentally where they're at.
Right. So, okay. So you've done the living room assessment, you're getting all the documentation signed. Now, let's say that they choose to engage with Angel Senior Care. What then happens?
Well, we asked for a 2-week deposit up front that would cover the schedule that they wanted. So
which is common in the industry. So I want to make sure the audience understands that is very common practice in our industry.
And that way, if there's a change of condition or something changes, or that person was taken to the hospital, people aren't burdened by trying to figure out, oh, she got invoiced or whatever. Anyways, we take the 2-week deposit, and I basically just have them sign right on my iPad. We sign a care contract, the type of care they're going to be getting, what we've agreed to. We sign a financial contract, what they're going to be paying, how much per hour, which days, and, when care is going to start and who it's going to be with. And we don't always know exactly who Carol's be with down the road, but we know it's going to start with one of our lead caregivers.
Which I think is a big differentiator for you. So even back when I started in the home care industry in 2012, when you do that living room assessment and they're starting services, you don't know. I mean, I've never had the experience where I know right then who their caregiver is going to be, because then you take the paperwork back, you notify the staffing department, they start identifying the care professionals, right? So I think this is a huge differentiator for Angel Senior Care, is that you've got those lead caregivers, so you are able to tell them.
Well, and I'm able to staff stuff at the last minute generally, because our lead caregivers work 20 hours in the office, 20 hours in the field. So I can look at their schedules and know when I can start them on one of these and what that's going to look like. And I trust our lead caregivers are fabulous. So they're also kind of care managers. So they're working with staff as well, training staff, doing staff. So they know staff a lot better than me. I don't know about you, Sarah, but there's kind of a fine line in the sand of going out and fishing, and then you catch the fish. I don't want to deal with the fish after that. Like,
well, you don't have time, right? Because you're wearing a different hat. The expectation of somebody in your role is to go out, nurture the relationships, to get more opportunity to serve the families, right? But again, like this, I want to really emphasize the fact that you guys do this and what a differentiator it is. Because the fact that these lead caregivers also are intimately know the other care professionals, that means that when they are the ones pulling the initial care shifts, because they already know the care staff, they're able to be thinking all along who would be the ideal ongoing fit for the client.
They are thinking that almost the day one that they meet that person. I mean, they read through my assessment notes and who this person is. But when they get in there, they are already on track. They're already revising schedules to put the right person with them. We have had a lot of success with this model.
I think it's so unique. Absolutely. Let's talk about anybody that's listening, or when they see the recording of this. What are some signs? And especially, we're halfway through September. We're not far from November and December, right? And family goes home, they see their aging loved ones, right? So what are some signs or indications that maybe that adult daughter, that adult son should reach out to somebody like you to have a conversation?
Well, I like them to reach out now during fall season, right? Because we're just heading into fall season, and just start talking about options and plans and future plans. And as I tell all families, it really makes our job easier to not operate from a crisis standpoint.
Yeah.
And so eliminating things is just as important as choosing things. I met with a very nice couple. He is able-bodied, has more health issues. She has severe dementia, and they live independently at a continuum of care community. He now has my page in his will that if anything should happen to him, I'm to be contacted. And I know within X amount of hours that I'll be setting up care for the wife. If he's at the hospital, or if he's, and this was all done proactively by them. They interviewed several home care companies. We talked about should or if he not come back from the hospital, what that looked like. We went over POAs. I reached out to the daughter. We had a very frank conversation. So there's a plan put into place. That's ideal.
That is ideal. Yes.
Does that always happen? Probably not. As children are coming into the holiday season, I like them to be taking notes. Are you calling and taking notes on your calendar too? Are you calling mom at the exact same time every day? And are you asking her the same questions? What'd you do this morning? Well, I had breakfast, and then I watched the news, and then I went for a walk. Okay, that's the same question, and that's the same answer. What did you have for breakfast? Where did you walk to? Who did you see? These things. Did you see, your son Brian yesterday? Nope, never saw Brian. Well, you know for a fact that your brother went to visit. start making notes of this over and over. As we're heading into winter, I know that we do an awful lot of action crises management coming into winter. There's more falls. There's more isolation because of weather. With isolation, we have decline, we have UTIs, we have all kinds of things happen in the winter that are preventable if we're all active together.
And children go home to visit, especially the geographically separated situations. They go home to see their parents on Thanksgiving and or Christmas. And while things may seem like they're okay over the phone, and that's a great point, Heidi, is mixing up the questions, right? But they go home and they start to notice that maybe things are not going as well as what mom or dad are saying, right? And so now they're home, they start reaching out to somebody like you. What are the things when a son and or daughter, right, they go home to visit for the holidays, what should they be looking for?
Generally, the things that they call me about are things like, I've noticed mom isn't bathing or taking showers anymore. Mm-hmm. I've noticed she's not cleaning the house like she used to. Like there's more clutter. And here's a perfect example. Mom goes to the grocery every day. I had this mother goes to the grocery every day and she buys a pound of bacon, a thing of coffee, some toilet paper, some paper towels, and a gallon of milk. When the children came home, she had so much bacon, toilet paper, milk, paper towels, and coffee. They had enough to give all 5 children a year's worth when we made the move. Like there was that much just stacked up.
But the children probably weren't thinking, they weren't picking up on this when she kept saying she was going to go do this or she was doing this. Okay.
It was like, oh, that's nice. You went to the store. That's good. You got out. You watched the news. And unfortunately, that person had some severe memory issues. And, this happens. Decline happens, can happen. So looking at their routines, are they getting social engagement? That's a huge part of mental decline. What does that look like? Just showing up and mowing mom's yard is not the same as sitting with her and doing a puzzle and talking with her. So coming over and shoveling her step, how are you today, mom? I'm good. That's not the same as engagement.
Right.
And valuable engagement, it's hard. If you've never had toddlers, you wouldn't know how to entertain a toddler, right? Like you have to really put yourself in the right frame of mind to come down to their level and do stuff so that they're safe and they're interacting and they're having a good time. Mm-hmm. It's the same with seniors. We really have to slow ourselves down, find something that is enhances their life in some way, shape, or form. Let's cook together today. Are they measuring? Are they tracking those things correctly? The things that they used to do.
Mm-hmm. So some other things that these adult children could pay attention to when going home. So you said, hygiene.
Yep.
And you mentioned cooking. So what about looking for whether or not mom and or dad is really eating as well as what they've been saying? Is there old food in the fridge that's moldy? What about medications being strewn all over the place, right?
Medications is one of those big issues, especially if the person's living alone. If, we're not allowed to give somebody medication, but we can observe them as they put their medication into pill boxes. Mm-hmm. So we can say, oh, you need to put one of these in each box, help do that. Or we can, a lot of times I'll find a care manager or somebody who's doing the med things that are on the wall that have the alarms and see how that's going. But if you're looking at their pill boxes as an adult child, or you're going over and having to fill them, really look at them on a pretty consistent basis, because that is one of the biggest failures is med management. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, as my mother says to me, I don't know what day it is. I've been retired for 12 years. Doesn't matter. Every day is the same. I know what day Senior Monday is at the bingo hall, but other than that, they all kind of run together, So, those things they're not aware. So if they took a nap or ended up sleeping through the night, they might have missed last night's meds.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that we're aware, are they missing those? And then put in safeguards, whether it's caregiving or whether it's reminders or calls or a med management kit to monitor some of that. And that can play a huge role in their wellness and their ability to stay home longer.
I totally agree. So Angel Senior Care, we've mentioned Washington State a few times now, but what specific geographic location does Angel Senior Care provide non-medical caregiving services and senior living placement services?
So we are the, I think, third largest city in Washington, but we're in Eastern Washington. So we pretty much serve Spokane County. We sit at about, in Spokane County, I think there's like 600,000 people here. So we're in competition with probably 10 home care agencies. We're big enough, our company's big enough that we serve north, south, east, and west of Spokane itself. We go up to some of the rural areas north of here in Spokane County. So Colville, Colbert, we've gone up as far as Elk before. We go east, we go west. We don't serve Idaho, even though we are on the Idaho border. Spokane County sits on the Idaho border about 30 minutes from our office location, but we don't really serve in Idaho. But Jessica does actually do some placement in Idaho.
Okay.
So I can't say that we don't serve that entirely. We just don't serve it in home care.
Okay. When I share the recording, I'll be sure to list out like the specific areas so people will see. Now, before we move into you providing contact information so people can reach out to you if they want to inquire about scheduling, an intake call or an assessment, what are good partners for you, Heidi? You and I have talked a lot, right? So we have the same philosophy, but I want the audience to know this. When it comes to senior care, you really have to take off the blinders, right? We know what our sector is, but we have to always be looking for what other resources are needed. And we want our partners to be doing the same for us, right? So who are those key collaborative partners that you are looking to connect with in your territory?
So for me, as I say, everyone's a referral partner. There's my neighbors, my, friends of my neighbors, everyone's a referral partner. Everybody knows somebody who needs some sort of service or knows somebody who needs it. And generally all of us have parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, something in that vicinity. So there's not a bad referral partner, but generally I usually market with a lot of our skilled nursing facilities because those seniors have had a change of condition. They were at home, they ended up at hospital, then rehab for some reason, and they may need help getting back to their new baseline. If they can get back to their old baseline, they can operate independently. If they no longer can get to that baseline, they're going to have to supplement it somehow. So we work with a lot of skilled nursing. I work with a lot of care managers because those people have made conscious choices ahead of time for should or if I need care, I want you to take care of that for me. So care managers are good for me. I work with the hospitals. Again, most of our hospitals are going to send people right to rehab, but we do some private work with hospitals too, where they're sending someone home from surgery and can we help supplement that? And the hospital actually pays for that. So that's kind of interesting. That's new on our agenda this year.
Oh, good.
I work with every other home care company and placement company in this town. And I know that sounds crazy, but there are times where you want to, you don't have somebody and that's an immediate need in that area of town. Who do I call? I need to take care of that family.
Because you're doing the right thing. Yes.
Because I'm doing the right thing. So if we can't serve it, I want to make sure they're getting served today. That's my goal. If they can't wait till tomorrow or they can't wait 48 or 72 hours, then my obligation changes. I work with elder law attorneys. A lot of times if somebody is gone into an elder law attorney, it's because they're a couple and they're making their future plans, and maybe somebody's sick, and the elder law attorney says, well, you can stay home and you can do this. Let reach out to Heidi here. Or
Yeah.
she would know how to help you in these other resources. Attorneys, financial planners, very busy, would love to just hand off to someone else who can sort it out for the family.
Right. They're advising on what they know, which is the law, and they're really good about trusting someone who understands the senior care industry to take over that advisory position. So within a skilled nursing facility, anybody listening now or when they watch the recording, what types of professionals, what roles precisely within that skilled nursing facility would you like to connect more with?
Obviously, discharge planners are big on our agenda, but it is not uncommon for me to hit up a nurse or two while I'm in there. I like to connect with the physical therapy department, the occupational therapy department, see what's new. And surprisingly, I love admin. I like the admissions portion and the front desk person. If you've not made friends with your front desk person, you're just silly.
It's true. It's true. And actually, I learned that later in my career after I was holding an academy, a senior care sales solutions academy in San Diego. It was the first one. And I was waiting for the students to arrive. It was a skilled nursing facility who was the host venue. And I happened to be talking to the business office manager. And when I was a marketer for home care companies, I never would have thought of talking to that person. And lo and behold, she shared with me just how closely she does interact with the families. And she's definitely in a position to be able to make recommendations to the families. So to your point, Heidi, anybody that works in senior care for home care companies, you should definitely make sure you connect with the administrative staff.
Absolutely. I like the front desk girl has gotten me more information than anybody else in the hospital all put together, has hooked me up. And then I also like you said, the business office manager, they've kind of done that financial discovery. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times with that, like the social workers don't always do the financial discovery as much, mm-hmm. but your business office manager is a financial person at the hospitals has done that. And they can go, oh, this company is here on this list. I always advise them, put 2 or 3 of us on there, 4 of us. I don't care if you list it all, or hand them a resource guide. But when they say, do you know anybody? You can hand them my card.
I like that. Do you personally know any of these people? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, or you can say, I can't refer to one specific person, but these companies, and usually they'll tap out yours,
Because they trust you, right? They know that you do a good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that they know you do the right thing. So I've used admissions person a lot, more than you think. And I've used that in kind of a different way. Like, I know that so-and-so is being released from the hospital and he's very difficult. He has memory issues. They've used restraints. They're having a hard time getting him placed into a skilled nursing because of that. Mm. But because of my personal relationships with the admissions people, I can call them and say, listen, we have a difficult situation. Can you guys help? I can try to help supplement on the home care side by sending them a person during sundowning, or by doing this. And they trust me enough to go, okay, I'll take that person in. Maybe they're high fall risk. So working with your admissions is not a bad thing either. To be able
I love how you navigate the situation like that. That really says a lot about you, Heidi, and how you're not just another home care marketer, right?
No, I try not to be, but you know what? I can say that the home care marketers in Spokane are fabulous, and I love them, and we all bring something a little special, a little different to the table. So shout out.
Love it. You so exemplify the empowering aging philosophy, right? There is so much opportunity out there, right? Mm-hmm. We need to be able to collaborate with the other people that are in our geographic area, right? So we can appropriately guide these families and make sure that we can help them, even if we can't at the time. And then we trust that the other agency, if they can't, they'll send the opportunity to us to do that. So let's say anybody that's been listening, or when they see this recording, what is the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they want to learn more?
The best way to get in contact with me is through Angel Senior Care Office. I actually have I'm at outreach at angelseniorcare.com. Feel free to reach out to me via email. You can call the Angel Senior Care Office, which is 509-326-4537. They'll hook you right up to my voicemail if I'm out and about. I generally return a call within 2 hours, but sometimes it can take me till the next day. So if you don't hear from me right that second, I am swamped and I will call you back ASAP, and feel free to send me a text as well.
Wonderful. Well, Heidi, thank you very, very much for being the guest on the Empowering Aging podcast today. Very engaging and informative conversation. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for this. And I look forward to seeing you later on today.
Wonderful. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.